Hey guys, thank you for watching the video. I'm making this commentary as kind of a explanation and kind of that way you're updated on how the game's gonna go, how it's gonna work, and when you might be able to get your hands on it if you're interested. So you can stick around if you're interested in that. First thing I'll start with, this game, it's split up into 3 acts as you saw at the end of the video. The Act 1 is going to be the orphanage. The Act 2 is college, and then Act 3, you're actually a police detective. And basically, the goal to beat the game is just to get through the first 2 acts, just to get through it without getting caught. The 3rd act is all about taking out your rival. Now, I'm not going to tell you too much, because that's no fun. And this, if you could tell from the intro, is a very story-centric game I'm focusing on, which is something I've never done before if you've seen my other videos, so it's going to be an interesting one. But Death Note is my favorite anime, and I've had a fond appreciation of it ever since the moment I watched it when I was pretty young, actually. Yeah, ever since, I've been obsessed with it. I just loved it. The characters, the story, the kind of realism it invoked, along with kind of telling you, you know, the human spirit, what goes through all of our minds, and ultimately how it can ruin us. Stuff like that. If you haven't watched it, you need to really check it out. It's really great. It's pretty, well, it's not really too old, but anyway, back on topic. The gameplay, you guys didn't actually see really any gameplay in this video. This was more, well, this was the entire prologue. And that prologue alone took me about a year, but don't be scared, because that was a lot of visuals, which the actual game's not going to have too much of, except for key moments. But the gameplay, if you ever played, essentially it's a social sim, very, very similar to Persona, the Persona series, and that's actually my favorite game, Persona 4, so it's kind of like a love child of my favorite game and my favorite anime. Basically, as you saw there towards the end, you met Jess, and you kind of saw these faces pop up along with stats, and under her face you saw nothing, and then when you actually became friends with her, you saw an apple. Basically, it's kind of funny because most social sims, the goal is to make friends, get laid, etc. But this social sim, essentially your goal is to let other people join you as a serial killer. As fun as that sounds. So the maximum amount of apples you can get is 5. And that is like, you saw the day system. It basically goes like that, kind of like Persona. You know, you go day 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can choose how you want to spend these days. You can raise your stats, which you have 3 of. You have knowledge, charm, and persuasion. Knowledge is more about trying to figure things about the Death Note, and also improving the way you can commit your murders. Charm, essentially, basically, I mean, they do what's on the box. Charm lets you flirt, kind of talk, weasel your way through things. It also has some other bonuses, like, you know, decreased prices in shops, stuff like that. And persuasion is you persuade, essentially. Obviously, as Kira, all of these things are important. To get people to join you more successfully, you need to persuade them. And you also need to charm them. But basically, like you saw their faces come up. That was an idea I had pretty early when I was starting development, because essentially you have a drawback when you're working with sprites like this, and that's you need to type everything, all the dialogue, all that stuff. And I thought maybe I should just add faces of the characters. Not only does that make it easier to connect with them and relate to them, it lets me show emotion. And what that means is, if you say something that kind of like makes somebody a little uncomfortable, instead of putting dialogue like ugh or ... ellipses, I can instead change their face. So it didn't really apply there, just as that kind of character, at least for now. But when you do other characters, you really need to pay attention to their faces and what they're expressing because of the things you said. Like I said, there's a day system. You can go out with the friends, and it's all your decisions. You can go out with your friends, and then the moment you do that, it brings up the faces, and then that's what it is. And depending on how you answer some things, you might get more apples quickly. And then also, when you're on these like little dates, your stats will come in handy, and you can make those risks. Like I took that risk before, even though my stat was at 0. You can take that risk and possibly enhance how fast they trust you. Basically, there's a day cycle for every day, and then there's a night cycle. I just explained the day cycle. You pick what you want to do, increase your stats, go to the store, do a job to get money, plenty of things. The night cycle is when essentially you're Kira. All the things you saw in his room, essentially you can use all of those. You can study with the books to increase your knowledge. You can watch the TV to increase your charm. The little yellow notebook next to his computer, that keeps track of all of the characters you meet. So it'll list their full name, things you've learned about them. That way, you know, you don't take like a 2-week-long break from my game, come back and you forget something. You know, it's right there. And the computer, essentially, computer is going to be very important. It's going to bring up a whole computer screen with multiple settings or multiple applications you can do. And then the phone, which you can call people to possibly increase your relationship with them. Now, I'll get to the main, like I mentioned earlier, how to win, how to not get caught. The way my game works, what I came up with, there's a suspicion meter, okay? You start off at 100. Now, throughout the game, there will be main events, like the story. During these story events, most times you will have options, talking options, or you might be able to choose something you want to do. Depending on how you answer, that suspicion might raise and it might lower. Now, the lowest it can get is 50, and the highest it can get is 200. When you reach 200, the game is over. And if you get a game over in my game, that's bad. I'll explain that in a little bit, but essentially, Act 1 and Act 2, you need to get through without letting that suspicion get to 200. Now, other than those main events, which can increase it by 20, 30, 50 if you fuck up that badly, there's also the characters that you're talking to. They can be as much of a friend as they are an enemy. If you mess up what you say to them, or you don't have the stats high enough and you try to go for something and it don't work out, you might see a little look on their face, or some people might not give a look. But when you go back to your computer, it'll show your suspicion. All of a sudden, you'll see, huh, my suspicion went up by 2. And you're like, well, whatever. The next day, it goes up by 2 again. The next day, 2. The next day, 2. So essentially, what happened is you actually got one of your friends suspicious of you. And when this happens, you have 2 options. There's option A, which is to continue talking to them, or maybe bribe them, not like blackmail, but buy them things, just really work up to get them to trust you again, and then eventually it'll go away, the suspicion raising. Or B, you can pick up your notebook and you can write their name out. If you do that, they're going to be permanently dead throughout the entire game. And you won't be able to spend time with them anymore, and they won't be able to help you. Now, I should explain how, essentially, you can, whenever you have options when you're at night. Like I said, you have your computer, your notebook, all that stuff. Well, one of the main options you want to do every night is write names. And sometimes you can double up on your names. Like when I say write names, I mean like do a light and like sit there and write hundreds of names that night. And sometimes you can double up to get even more names out. Every time you write names, you gain followers, which you can check on your computer. There's followers, they'll be in the thousands. When you get them to a certain point, it'll rank up and all your stats will increase. So that's very advantageous for you. If you, like I said, the goal is to get the friends you have to join you. If you succeed in that, they will become Kiras, as I call them, Kiras. And essentially, if you have the right stats for it, you can start you can maybe give them scraps of the notebook, and then they can start writing for you, and you'll just automatically gain followers. And you keep this up, and if you play your cards right like be Kira, like be a sly motherfucker, you gotta trick these people, you gotta deceive them. And once you get to that point where you got enough followers, I mean, you'll be getting so many, when you get enough Kiras, you'll be getting so many followers every day without you even having to do anything. And that gives you more time to raise your stats and possibly win the game, which is very difficult, I might add. Like I said, the third act, you need to kill your rival. Yeah, it's a lot harder than it sounds. Essentially, there's about 14 endings, and almost all of them don't end good. Well, I'm not going to tell you what the endings are. I'm just saying it's hard to kill your rival. So anything can happen in the ending. But I won't spoil too much about the story. I'll let you uncover that. What I plan to do, I think I explained most of the gameplay. I don't think I'm missing anything. Basically, what I will tell you all is, if you need to get to the end of the game, even if you get your rival's name, you need to have some followers. Sorry, I'm getting them confused. You need to have some Kiras, because if you're by yourself at that point, things will only be worse for you. And essentially, your goal is to be Kira, make a new world, and you need people to help you. Which is why I said it's kind of like a weird social sim, isn't it? Like, most of the time it's all happy, cheery, and fun, but here you're really deceiving people, and it's not very fun for them, at least. But I like the concept. When I was not a kid, but when I was younger, and I first started with RPG Maker, my third game, I believe, was a Death Note game, and that was just out of pure fanism, if you can call it that, where there was no gameplay at all. I just wanted to do something with Death Note, and basically all that happened in it, it was awful, by the way, but all that happened in it was you're a high school student, you get mad at your mom because she doesn't support Kira, you run off, find the notebook, write her name in it, and then that was it. And I had the walking sequence with Light's theme, which was also in this version, so that kind of like inspired this game. So I can't really diss it too much, but I really liked how I brought that back into this and try to make it work out well. Yeah, that's about all the gameplay I think I'll share with you guys. What I plan to do is when Act 1 is finished, I want to release a playable demo, and that'll kind of bide people over, hopefully, if they want to play it. There's a nice assortment of characters, and you'll get the feel of the game, even though each act will play very differently. But and then the game won't actually be released until I finish the other two, obviously, and it will take some time, guys. Like I said, if a character dies, they're gone. So imagine how many variables I need to go throughout my story to make sure it functions correctly. I can't have you kill somebody in Act 1 and then Act 3 have them standing there out of nowhere like a damn ghost. That'd be embarrassing for me. So, a lot of precautions, a lot of play testing is going to be done, but in the end, I will deliver the game I've always wanted to do. I haven't finished any of my previous projects, mostly due to limitations, but here, I have a set goal throughout the entire thing. It's my own unique gameplay I designed. I'm very attached to it. It took years to think of. No exaggeration. Like I said, you don't really see any Death Note games, aside from the DS ones, which I honestly haven't played, but you don't really see any ones that with effort. Like if the DS ones always have Light, L, that's all it is. But here I'm trying to create my own story, kind of personally involve you into the Death Note universe. And if you're one of those people who are fans of Death Note and you're looking at that intro and you're like, man, all these coincidences, you just find this notebook out of nowhere, well, that's kind of stupid. Trust me, the story explains that. I won't spoil it, but I will say, if you've seen the Death Note movie, not the live action one, the one that basically went through the anime, the entire anime, first half of the anime in one movie, that ending, it's actually involved in my game. The ending that was in the movie alone. So I'll kind of leave you Death Note fans to that. Other than that, thank you guys for watching. I try to keep the commentary short here. Just want to explain what was going on. Thank you for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the game. The more it gets recognized, honestly, the faster I'll probably be making it. I mean, let's be real. When people praise your work, you get this kind of butterfly in you. Kind of makes you want to keep going. But thank you for watching. I'll see you guys when I have more for you. See ya.